This Palestinian village in the West Bank is mourning two of their own. One was a young American. 20-year-old Sayfollah Musallet, born in Florida and visiting relatives, was beaten to death Friday by Israeli settlers, his family said. In a post online, Musallet's family said settlers blocked the ambulance and paramedics from providing life-saving aid for several hours.
On Friday, a group of Israeli settlers brutally beat and killed 20-year-old Sayfollah Musallet, a U.S. citizen born in Tampa, while attempting to steal his family's land. Jank, we'll get into the details in a second, but first, it feels like reports like these are becoming more and more common, and there's zero accountability. What do you make of this?
This is the 7th American killed by Israelis in the West Bank since October 7th. Now, remember, Hamas is not in the West Bank, they're in Gaza. And remember, these are American citizens. And the American government doesn't give a damn, as we're about to show you. Because the Israeli government is more important than the American government. The Israeli civilians are more important than the American civilians. There's almost never any consequences for this. And as you're hearing all of this, just imagine if the situation was reversed. So for example, in what Jordan already read to you, imagine if a bunch of Palestinians beat an Israeli American to death and they wouldn't let ambulances in and they just pummeled him with their bare hands and whatever other weapons they had until they murdered him. What do you think the reaction would be? Do you think it would be, oh, ho hum, no big deal, that's normal? Or would we say it was the worst thing, goddamn terrorists? Would we already be bombing them, their families nearby them that had nothing to do with it? How many people would we kill in retaliation? Now find out what our reaction is after American citizens are murdered by Israelis. Let's find out.
In a statement provided by the family, they write that Saif traveled to Palestine to visit his family on June 4th. And this occurred in the town of as Al-Mazrah Ash-Sharqiya, north of Ramallah. Nazar Milbys, a close family friend currently visiting the West Bank from California, told NBC News that many residents of Saif's town are Americans. The town is known for its olive trees and rolling hills, where many modern Palestinian homes are built, including some of the West Bank's more opulent houses. Families gathered to barbecue and relax, many of them traveling from the US for vacation. But according to Milbys, growing settler violence has transformed the area. There's nothing left over here for people to enjoy. The settlers have taken everything. People can't even go there anymore. The settlers have burned the vacation homes. They've encroached and put their stuff there. Then this past Friday, the brutal assault occurred as Saif attempted to protect his family's property. Israeli settlers surrounded Saif for over 3 hours as paramedics attempted to reach him, but the mob of settlers blocked the ambulance and paramedics from providing life-saving aid. After the mob of Israeli settlers cleared, Saif's younger brother rushed to carry him to the ambulance. Saif died before reaching the hospital. Now, his friend, a 23-year-old Palestinian man named Mohammed al-Shalabi, was also killed by gunshots in the same violent incident. The IDF spoke to ABC News following the report and stated they were aware of reports regarding a Palestinian civilian killed and a number of injured Palestinians as a result of the confrontation, and they are being looked into by the Israeli Security Agency and Israel police. Surprise, surprise, the IDF said the incident occurred because rocks were thrown at Israeli settlers, causing light injuries. Shortly after, a violent confrontation developed in the area involving Palestinians and Israeli civilians, which included vandalism of Palestinian property, arson, physical clashes, and rock hurling. While Saif's family demands the State Department investigate the matter, the State Department hasn't really said much. A spokesperson for the State Department told press outlets it was aware of reports a US citizen has died in the West Bank, but declined to comment further out of respect for the family. Saif's death marks the 5th American to be killed in the West Bank since the conflict between Israel and Hamas began on October 7th. Israeli settlers already face very minimal accountability for violence against Palestinians. Yesh Din, a Israeli human rights group, said settlers rarely face legal consequences for violence perpetrated against Palestinians. Between 2005 and 2023, more than 93% of all investigations were closed without an indictment, and only 3% of investigations led to a conviction, according to a report by the organization. But when it comes to settlers and the IDF attacking Americans, there's absolutely zero accountability, it seems. CAIR, the Council on American Islamic Relations, stated in a press release on the matter, this was not an isolated incident. It was part of a long, unpunished pattern of violence against US citizens by Israeli soldiers and settlers. Americans like journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, peace activist Aysenur Egi, and 80-year-old Omar Assad, 14-year-old Omar Mohammed Rabia, and human rights defender Rachel Corrie were also killed. In each case, the United States government failed to hold anyone accountable. Earlier this year, CAIR sent a formal letter to the DOJ urging prosecution of Israeli perpetrators involved in the killings of American citizens. In response, the DOJ wrongly claimed it lacked authority to investigate these murders, despite having clear legal tools at its disposal. Cenk, there's a lot to go over here, but I can't help but recognize that the State Department statements and the State Department response seems almost identical to what the US State Department response was under the Biden administration whenever we saw these types of incidents.
Yeah, of course, that's because Israel rules us. AIPAC has purchased all of our politicians and they report to Israel first, America maybe second. And if you think that's an outrageous thing to say, what do you mean? They just killed 5 Americans and we did nothing about it. If any other government killed 5 Americans, we'd be at war. And sorry, by the way, I said 7 earlier, Jordan's right, it's 5, including a 14-year-old boy. Imagine if the Palestinians had already murdered 5 Americans, beaten 1 to death, another one was a 14-year-old boy. We'd rip them apart. It'd be murder on top of murder for them. But the Israelis do it, they're like, oh yeah, free to go. Killing Americans, no big deal, as long as Israel does it. If Israel does it, they can kill any. Would you think that if they killed 50 Americans, it'd make a difference? 500 Americans? I know what a lot of the right wing's gonna say, prodded by Israeli supporters. That doesn't really count, they're Muslims. Is that how our Constitution works? And do you think that they would really stop there? Oh, it's okay to murder Muslim Americans. You'll get away with it. There'll be no accountability. But if you murder Christian Americans, boy, then our government, completely controlled by AIPAC, they'll be really mad. Their strongly worded letter will be slightly stronger. You'll get nothing and you'll like it. And by the way, let's also note that people who say like, oh, we gotta crack down on peace protests. Why? I'm so concerned about bigotry, the anti-Semitism against Jewish Americans. The Jewish Americans didn't order this war crimes. The Israeli government did. I'm worried about bigotry. Yeah, well, a Muslim American was just murdered, beaten to death by Israeli settlers. It doesn't matter, he's Muslim. Wait, I thought you were concerned about bigotry. No, you're not concerned about bigotry. You love bigotry if you're a diehard Israel supporter who supports this kind of murder on a regular basis of American citizens. If you say no big deal, we shouldn't do anything, you're saying, yeah, I'm super racist against Palestinians. I'm a deeply bigoted prick who thinks, oh, it's murdering Muslims is no big deal. But if you talk about Israelis, oh, Israelis are worth 1 million lives, 1 million lives. You kill 1 Israeli, we're gonna murder all of you, right? Oh, you killed Americans. Americans don't count. Well, but our own government agrees, both under Biden and Trump. We're like, oh, we're not gonna do anything. It's beloved Israel. Kill as many Americans as you like. This is like, come on, guys. Don't tell me that AIPAC doesn't run our government. You think that if Venezuela killed 5 Americans, including a 14-year-old, we'd be like, oh, no big deal, it's okay. If Iran did it, if Russia did it, we'd be in the middle of World War III if they did it. But Israel does it, nothing, no accountability. Being an American means nothing if Israel kills you. Okay, now let's talk about how monstrous they are. not just the settlers, who are all, like almost all of them are religious lunatics. Oh, Yahweh told me I should murder all the Muslims and take their land. He says I have rights to Judea and Samaria. I don't know any fundamentalists in the world as bad as those settlers, okay? Maybe it's a tie between the radicals and all the religions who all want to kill each other, okay? But they're as bad as any fundamentalist in the world. If you think, oh, Muslim fundamentalists are terrible or Hindu fundamentalists are terrible, the Tamil Tigers do suicide bombings, the Palestinians have done terrorism or whatever, but the Israeli settlers who rip people apart with their bare hands, they're lovely. Their religious zealotry is okay because anti-Semite. No. You're the bigots. You're the bigots who say no problem if you murder a Muslim. No problem if you murder an American. If you support this crap, which I'm always gotta pull back and tell you the truth. Almost every politician in America supports, okay? Bernie Sanders and the populist left and the progressives hate this and they fight back. Almost all of the rest of them, all crooks. You see an outrage in right now, this just happened. It happened on Friday, today's Monday. Do you see this giant congressional hearings? Israel's feelings were hurt on a Columbia campus and we had congressional hearings, people arrested, deported, blah, 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 all this madness, right? And Americans murdered, Democrats in Congress, Republicans in Congress, Democratic and Republican presidents, nothing. I mean, they weren't Israelis, so their lives don't really matter. They were just Americans. Okay, so last thing on the morality of it, Jordan. So they said, wow, they were throwing rocks. That's what they say every time. Total lie, okay? Oh, really? Every single time they were throwing rocks? Every single time? Yeah. That's what they say. Okay, they had it coming, right? Okay, but let's say that it's true for a second. And I have personal experience with this, really personal experience with this. I got into a silly fight when I was a kid, I don't know, maybe around 12 or so. Another kid was a year younger than me, so 11, 12, 13, something in that ballpark, right? And he had hit me and then I was chasing him and he got to his own driveway and it was a gravelly driveway and he picked up this giant rock from the broken up driveway and he threw it at me and he hit me in the head. And I started bleeding from the head and I didn't even realize it. And like other people held me back and they're like, Cenk, you gotta go to a hospital, you're bleeding from the head, right? If you said to me, should you murder that kid? I'd say, no, are you insane? You're gonna kill him? No, don't kill him. I wanna punch him real bad, okay? But kill him, are you insane? If you said, do you wanna kill him and his entire family? I'm like, what? Are you a serial killer? Are you a homicidal maniac? What do you mean kill his entire family? Well, if you said to me, do you want to kill most of his village, drop a 2,000-pound bomb as they've done in Gaza over and over again because he threw a rock? I'm on, brother, I want to get him in a headlock. I didn't want to kill him. I didn't want to kill his sister who didn't do anything to me. And I didn't want to kill the other neighbor over there who I really like. What kind of insane standard is this? But Israel has hypnotized us into thinking that if somebody throws a rock, you should murder everyone in the vicinity. No, that's a deeply immoral position. I don't know anybody more immoral than those settlers in the West Bank. They disgust me. Jordan.
Yeah, I think that specifically, I think is an interesting point to zoom in on. Chris Hedges in his book, War is a Force That Gives Us Meaning, published in the mid-2000s, but based on his reporting over what was then the prior few decades, he spent some time in the 90s and early 2000s in Gaza. And just to show people how this isn't, of course, an isolated incident like Cenk is talking about. This happens over and over again. They're always saying, oh, rocks were being thrown. But he illustrated even back then, and I'm sure this has been an issue, like the same thing over and over again for the last few decades, is IDF members would drive up to the fence or along the fence in Gaza, and they would hurl insults, antagonize children in one case that he personally witnessed. And these kids with nothing at their disposal other than rocks would throw rocks back because they were angry. They were being taunted by these IDF soldiers. And then he personally witnessed them, in response to these kids throwing rocks, in response to their insults, shooting and killing children in Gaza. And when you hear these things, oh, they're throwing rocks at tanks, know that there's almost certainly something that came before that. And never is, like Cenk is saying, never is murder okay in response to a rock being thrown. And of course, we've seen throughout Gaza and the West Bank much more vicious attacks in response to rock throwing or some sort of dust up. But like, again, this is happening, like Cenk said, this is happening in the West Bank. The settler violence is happening in the West Bank. That's not where October 7th, that's not where Hamas is. So they are using this, all of this as a pretext for further expansion, further settlement development, and ultimately a genocide. I look forward to the day where everyone will have pretended to have always been against this.
100%. And last thing I'll say is the entire point of the settlers in the West Bank is to steal Arab land. There is no other point. They think that God gave them Judea and Samaria, greater Israel, from the river to the sea, they say, and that it's their land and it's their job to take it from the Palestinians. And if they have to murder them, then they'll murder them to take it because God told them to. It doesn't get any worse than that. And we give them at least $4 billion a year. We've given them over $300 billion already to steal more land and now to kill Americans with no consequences. Enough. We should give them $0. They're one of the worst governments in the world. They aid and abet those terrorist settlers in the West Bank. And now they murder Americans with impunity. We should give them $0. That's exactly what they deserve. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.